Hi, Steve here, Kunkel321 on the forums and on GitHub, doing a screencast for the AutoCorrect2 app. Today, let's look at AutoCorrection Logging. If you followed the thread at all, you know that I'm all about logging. That's the whole reason for the F function, or one of the main reasons for the F function. Before we start, though, I would like to clarify the difference between auto-correction logging and manual correction logging. Auto-correction logging is for finding bad hot strings. So in our last video about the F function, we were talking about confounding typings or confounding typos when you accidentally hit a wrong key, and instead of auto-correcting to the correct word, it just happens to match a trigger string for another word and autocorrects it to a different word, therefore making the thing worse instead of better. And so we want to try to record those when they happen, identify them later, get rid of them, call them out of the library. And so that's what it's all about. Manual correction logging, on the other hand, is a tool. It's this thing here, MCLogger, and potentially, if you run it in the background, it watches for your key presses for backspaces, looks for particular patterns that indicate that you've backspaced and corrected a word, and logs that. And that is for looking for potential hot strings to add to your library. Typos you keep making over and over again, you can potentially add them to your library if you want to. So again, we'll do another screencast for that. Today we're looking at the auto correction logging for finding bad hot strings. And so we looked before at the F function, and in the, let's see here, in the includes folder of the download is AutoCorrect system, and AutoCorrect system has, come on, it has the F function. And so it watches when an autocorrection has happened. All of the autocorrect items are wrapped in those F function calls, and so by definition, when one of them is used, you're calling this here function. And so it does the different things that it does, and then it also calls the keep text function here. The keep text function has it watches. It starts an input hook to watch for a backspace. And if a backspace is pressed within 1 second, then it uses, says the hyphen variable becomes this double greater than symbol, which is supposed to be like a backspace arrow. And if it times out, there's a 1 second timeout. If it times out, then it uses this dash dash. And so what happens is let's see, so it waits for 1 second, watches for backspace, and it logs it with the correct hyphen. So in the, let's see where I want, in the data folder, sorry about clearing my throat, I have allergies all the time. We have the autocorrect log here in the data folder, and if we open this, it's already opened, yes, okay. You'll see that these are all the loggings. And one thing you'll notice that might be confusing is, let me see here what I want to do. I want to show you the actual log hot string library. The hot string library uses the F functions like we were just talking about. When they get logged, I don't put the F functions in the log because it just makes the thing, it's not necessary. It makes everything busier and harder to see. So here it is. And so it uses just it formats it as a plain vanilla auto hotkey hot string, puts the date, and it puts that hyphen. And so the ones with the dash dash are the ones where backspace was not pressed within 1 second. And these ones are where they were. And so that lends itself to being able to systematically, programmatically analyze this and look for the number of times any particular hot string was backspaced or not backspaced. And that is what the let's see, that is what the, but before we look at the AutoCorrect Analyzer tool, I want to also talk about the BackSpaceContextLogger. And so BackSpaceContextLogger is also in the autocorrect system. And so it's a separate class. And what it does is it's constantly caching words. And so it has a memory of the last like 5 words, and the memory is constantly refreshing. So words that were more than 5 words ago are just dropped from memory, and then the most recent 5 are always kept. It never looks for digits because we're talking about autocorrect items here, and autocorrects are always going to be letters and never digits. And so, which is good because that way I don't have to worry about inadvertently logging my, my bank number or my passwords or anything like that. It potentially could log sensitive information if that sensitive information is all letters. So be mindful of that if you ever share your backspace context log or your autocorrect log, I guess. And so let's see here, back to my agenda. So backspace context logger caches X words, ignores digits. Oh, and then after the autocorrection occurs, it waits for the next Y number of words after that, and then if Y number of words are not typed, it'll time out after Z seconds. And what I want to show you is back with our file manager here in the tools thing is the settings manager, which we've looked at a few times in different videos. Notice that there's a section for ACLogAnalyzer. And so, oh, wait a minute. Nope, sorry. We want AC system. And so here are the beep on correction is the for every correction that's logged, or every time the function is called, and then beep on context log is when the backspace is detected. And when a backspace is detected, what it does is that however many preceding words, so it looks like I have it set for 8, those are constantly being recycled in memory, the most recent 8 being in memory, and then they get dropped if not used. But when that backspace is pressed 1 second after an autocorrection, then it kind of captures a snapshot of the cache and records those, and then also waits for 6 words after that. So you have your autocorrection that happened, and you can kind of see the context of what you were typing. And then again, if you stop typing, it'll just time out after 12 seconds, and then you'll get another beep. I think this beep happens after the timeout or after the 6 following words. So let's just have a quick look at the context log in the data folder here. And it's the error context log. And it's kind of hard to wrap your brain around what's happening here, but it'll make more sense when we look at our log analyzer. But this is what the actual log looks like. And lots of junk in there. So you'll notice this side of it looks just like the autocorrect log, except that all of them are backspace items, because these ones only records when there's a backspace. It doesn't record the good ones that are where an autocorrect happens and backspace is not pressed. Okay, so moving forward here. So error context log, we just looked at that. Okay, so now let's look at the ACLogAnalyzer tool. So it's worth noting that what am I trying to say here? If you're running the MC Logger tool, then it will be running in the background doing its thing. And you'll always be running AutoCorrect2, because if you're not running this, then you wouldn't be using the app. The logging happens automatically when AutoCorrect2 is running. However, the ACLogAnalyzer, which is in Tools here, it only runs when you do an analysis. So this is not a tool that's always running in the background. like the MC logger is. Okay, so I also want to show you the WinH, and if you right-click on the exam pane, it's the green icon here. Analyze autocorrect log. Also shows the shortcut Alt+Ctrl+Shift+Q, and this is what it looks like. So it's going through that autocorrect log, however many items are in it. It's actually going kind of slow now. I think Camtasia Studio uses up a lot of my system resources. Usually takes about 1/3 that amount of time. Come on then. Here it is. All right. So look at these. And it's showing you the hot string, and again formats it as a generic or a default vanilla auto hotkey auto replace hot string rather than the F function. And the default view is just alphabetical, but it has this columns for BS, which is backspace. This is the number of times it was logged, and it has that backspace indicator for the hyphen. And this is the OK, the number of times that it logged that does not have that. And then this is the total, is adding these two together. And the weight is what it is it's the ratio of backspaces to kept BS to OK, where the BS ones are higher. So a higher percentage of BS items means a higher weight, but also it factors in the overall total. And so items that have just been logged a high number of times overall end up getting a higher score, even if they have the same ratio as a lower number item. Okay, and that weight can be customized in the settings, which we'll look at in a moment here. So let's see, what do I want to look at? So with the backspace ones, you can sort by clicking the header, and so it says up here, double clicking an item saves it to the clipboard, right click for context, and so I'm going to right click this. And so what this does is when I right click this, it goes to that ErrContextLog.txt, and it searches for the hot string, and it returns all of the items for that hot string. Font's a little bit bigger on here, so you can see it a little bit easier on the video, hopefully. And you'll notice that it uses between each word and space. And by the way, here the hyphen here is space character, space character, and this is a backspace character here. And so it separates those just to make it easier to see. You'll also notice the left bracket, and over on this end is the right bracket. Theoretically, what it's supposed to do is all the ones with the left brackets are ones that were cached, and then the autocorrection happens. I press backspace, and then all the ones with the right bracket are the ones that were the leading ones. I think it was 6 of them. It looks like for this one I probably timed out, so I probably stopped typing. But it's kind of nice because it lets you see actually what you were typing. So Evan is able to compose sentences, and this is an example of confounding typing because it was able to compose sentences. So I was trying to write sentence, but I hit the C instead of the T, and so it corrected it, and then I had a backspace. And so that's an example. That's an example of when this particular autocorrect item was not behaving as desired. So let's see here. It might make sense. It might make sense for us to just, and then I typed sends, and this one actually, the second one here, it looks like the correction was the one I was looking for. I had mistyped since. I typed it with a C, and it was going to change it to an S for me, which was what we want, but I hit backspace anyway, apparently. So probably what happened is I saw myself typing, and I saw that I pressed the C, so I hit backspace at just about the same time the autocorrect was occurring, or maybe my brain wasn't quick enough to stop pressing backspace, and so I backspaced it right after the correct. Well, I guess that is what happened because I backspaced after the correction happened. It's also possible that I was just typing really fast. I find that it's entirely possible for me to type so fast that an auto correction will happen, and then I will make another mistake and backspace the other mistake, all within 1 second of the auto correction happening. There's no way really for the code to detect if I'm backspacing the actual auto correction or another element of my typing at the moment. So anyways, can get a sense of how the context of the typing helps. And so close this. And what else do we want to look at here? Along the bottom here, let's look at the buttons. So send to HH. I'm trying to remember, this one will restart HotString helper and send the item as a command line parameter. Therefore, is it going to work? Wait a minute, I have to double click an item to save it to the clipboard and then send to HH. Not going to work. Oh well. At any rate, what I recommend doing instead is, especially since the send to HH doesn't work, is double click it to save it to the clipboard and then just do the hotkey. Win H will cause it to open. But doing that shortcut way with clicking and then Win H does it without restarting the app. Okay, so it opens it up in here for us to analyze it without that restarting, which is kind of nice. So okay, so let's see what else I want to remember. The whole purpose of this is to find bad hot strings and decide if I should get rid of them. I probably won't get rid of this one because it was kept 65 times, only backspaced 14 times. Probably what I want to do is sort by weight. So first click sorts them backwards with the lowest weight score. So this is like the best one, right? It was kept 34 times, only backspaced once. But if I click it again, I get all the high score ones. So backspaced 3 times, never kept once. And then, of course, I'm going to look at the context for these. So there was a tier. It was a tier 2 conference, but the digits aren't getting cached. So there was a tier 2 conference, but I don't. And so this again, it was changing it as expected. It was changing conference to conference, which is what I wanted. But I hit backspace anyway, probably because I saw myself press the V instead of the F. And if we select this, you can see, yeah, here's the change, the V to F. And in our video about the making autocorrect items, we talked about how it's good if you have very few following letters that happen after the replacement, because if it's autocorrection that happens instantly, then I won't manually change it as well. But with this one, we couldn't trim it any more than this on the right, because then it starts misspelling other words. That was no good. So what to do with this? I don't know. Probably leave it. That's the dilemma, is figuring out what to do with these after we see them in here. Let's see. So there is the cull button here. Cull. This does not remove it from the HotStrings library. It culls it from the AutoCorrection log, that text file. And so if I, for example, let me just find one that I do want to remove. So yeah, I guess we will remove this one. And it was backspace 3 times, never kept once. So let's. So what we want to do, I'll show you the process for that. Is there's a lookup. Press the lookup thing, and it will attempt to look it up in the autocorrect, the library. Yep, there it is. Sometimes the thing will open and the find tool won't launch. So then after the library opens, then you have to press look up again. But this time it did find it on the first try. So I'm going to get rid of this. Say backspace. And then whenever you make a change to the library, immediately save it so that you don't get one copy on the disk and another copy in your editor. Okay, so that item is no longer in the autocorrect in the HotStrings library, which means we don't want to keep finding it in our when we run an autocorrection log analysis report, which means remove it from the log. So selected, click Cull, and when we do, it gives us the option of adding it to our removed hot strings list. The reason I added this is because I detected that there was kind of a loop happening. I would remove a bad hot string, it would be gone from the library, those autocorrections wouldn't happen anymore, but then the manual correction logger would see me manually correcting the thing, and it would save it again, suggest it as an item. I would add it back to the library, and then it would be in there again. And so what happens is the manual correction logger, which we will look at in a different screencast, does several checks, and one of the things it checks for is to see if the item is in the culled items, the removed hot strings list. So do with that, and then the optional notes here. Let's see, hold on, cancel. Dang it. Back to here. Ugh. And now it's gone. And I didn't add it to the log file. Sorry, I mean I didn't add it to the removed items list, but that's okay. Moving on. So the context button is the same thing as the right click. This, and then the suggester tool. What this suggester tool does is it looks for supersets of the trigger and replacement that could potentially be used. So if this is too ambiguous because it's too short, I can click suggester and it will look in here and it will systematically try different letters at the beginning and or end of the trigger and replacement string to see if the associated hot strings that are created by that are feasible new items for our library that potentially will still correct lots of items, but hopefully won't have as many confounding errors. And again, Camtasia Studio, I think, is sucking up my resources because this usually only takes a couple of seconds for this thing to run. I might have to pause, cut part of the video to get rid of. There it is. All right. So we'll look more at this on another video, I think, but you can sort by, probably we want to sort by web frequency. Look for the high frequency items up here. The original, of course, is always the top one, but we want to potentially get rid of this one because it was having problems. And so we look at what happens if we add an E to the beginning. It still matches 203 items, doesn't misspell any words. So this might actually be a good one. So we could right click this, or oh wait, no, we would select it down here, press the hotkey, and see about potentially adding that to our library. If I added it right now, it would conflict with the one that's already there, the ASR. So I'm not going to do that now. Do that some other time. Let's see here. So other buttons. So the edit here actually edits this AC report, ACLogAnalyzer.ahk code. So probably don't want to do that since all of the settings now are in the any file and not in the code like they used to be. And of course, close is close. Ah, boy. Okay, let's look at the agenda again. So we looked at the ACLogAnalyzer tool and the report that was there. The buttons at the bottom. Remember, the weight can be adjusted. I guess let's look at the any file, or the settings manager, which writes things to the any file. Configuration settings manager. Okay, ACLogAnalyzer has its own section here. So frequency importance, choose from 0 to 50. I have it set at the highest, which means that the number of items that are logged is extremely important. If it's set to 0, then it will just use the ratio of backspace items to kept items. Okay, ignore fewer than 0, and so that the report was displayed in a list view that included everything. It used to be a list of radio buttons that had like the top 20 items, so we could tell it to ignore low frequency items. So this is not really even important anymore. Copy item on select, also not important anymore since you can now right click on an item to select it. Let's see, pin to top, should be pinned to the top by default. Enable error logging, and this doesn't mean the autocorrect error logging. This is to log errors in the app itself for debug purposes. Start line is the in your AutoCorrection log file. Do you want it to scan the entire file with each loop of the scan, or just or start at line 7? So have it starting at line 7, and then the call day format. So we looked at that little pop-up tool. When we called the thing, it allowed us to add the item to our Culls hot strings list, and this is the format for the date in there. Okay. So what else? So we look at the context items, the brackets with the left versus right items, indicating if they were before or after the correction. The suggester tool, the call list, calls some. And then remember that the calling an item calls it from the AutoCorrection log, but not from HotstringsLib. To take the item out of your HotString library, you have to manually go there and open it, which we did using the go-to feature. And then we talked about the validity checks and the MC logging. If an item is added to your called HotStrings list, it's ignored by MC logger, but it also gets searched if you do a check for a hot string, like just select an item and then do a check. It's telling me duplicate trigger found, and it's finding the one that's in there because it's looking in this library. But it looks in that list of called hot strings, so it'll alert me if the item was previously removed from the list. Okay, and let's see, we're at 27 minutes here, so I'll try to not to keep you too much longer here. Do want to look at what about all the AC items logged that are never logged? So with the ACLogAnalyzer, I forgot it's running really slow right now. Usually this only takes about 1 or 2 seconds to open, but you'll find that it only displays items that when they've been logged with a backspace at least once, or I guess maybe if they're even just logged at all, at least once. And a lot of the items in the library here are never, they're never logged. And so how can you, if you want to see a list of the items that have like a log of 0 because they've just never been used, how can you do that? And so the way you can do that is with the, what is it? HotstringLibStats. And hopefully this one won't take super long. Come on, there it is. So it goes through this, and then it looks at that hotstring, that AutoCorrection log, and it gives me the number of times backspace and the number of times kept. So these ones, by the way, are in the order that they appear in your HotstringsLib.ahk file. So you can go through and see that most of them have never even been logged. I guess in theory I could go through here after logging for like 10 years or something, and then I could say minister has never even been used once. We might as well get that out of there, get rid of it. Maybe, I don't know. But if you do want to see the number of items that have never been logged, click on these, sort by these. This one's been used a bunch of times. So okay, so there's that. And I want to look at the ACLogStatistics and the AutoCorrectLog versus the ACLog continuous. Okay, so here is the ACLogStatistics. So It looks at the AC log items and asks if I want to make a chart by month, by week, or just looking at comparing weekdays. So let's do by month. And it does this HTML magic here. I was impressed by AI, did this for me without too much debugging needing. And so it shows the number of times backspaced versus the number of times kept. And so my idea is that I would like to graph this. Theoretically, I should think that the percentage of kept should increase over time as I'm removing bad autocorrect items from my log. But I realized that every time I remove a bad autocorrect item, I also cull it from the log, and so the log is getting analyzed, and so it's invalidating my data because I am removing data from from my data set every time I call an item. But I have to call them because I don't want to keep finding them in my report if they no longer exist in my HotstringsLib library. So, anyways, what I needed was a duplicate version of the log file that never gets items culled from it. So that's what we did. I resisted doing this for a long time because I just have so many darn different files and logs going on that I didn't want to add another one, but I eventually determined that it was just inevitable, and so AutoCorrecsLog.txt, used for purging bad autocorrect items, ACLogContinuous never gets called from. It gets used for that analyzing trends in my logging over time. And here's the log, ACLogContinuous. Unfortunately, I only started collecting this a few months ago, so the AutoCorrects log has a couple years of data in it. ACLogContinuous is like 5 or 6 months. Okay, so there's that. And then also I want to talk about the HotString quick lookup, and it is a tool that is included in AutoCorrect2. It is this thing here, and the hotkey is Ctrl+Shift+Q. And what this is for is if I'm working in my library here, and I just want to look up statistics for any particular item, and how can I look this up? Now, I guess I could open up the log file and do a find all the different occurrences of this, but I wanted to automatize that. So there it is. No matches found for this one, and most of them will tell me that there are no matches found because most of these have never been logged. So I have to be careful not to slip into the text. Oh, thank God! Finally, I found one. Okay, so this one, encouraging. 5 occurrences, kept 5 times, backspace 0 times. So pretty good item, I guess. Last occurrence tells us when the last occurrence was. If there were context items, I would show click show context. So, okay, and so that is that thing. And I can't think of anything else. So it's been a long video. Thanks for hanging in there. We're almost 35 minutes in. This is Cull 321 for the AutoCorrect2 app.